Hey, man.
What's up?
Have you ever heard of Andy?
Andy?
Yeah.
Andy. Like Andy Griffith?
No, I can't.
Andy. Are we talking about Andy's ice cream?
I can't know. I can't give you a last name because it would
give it away.
Honestly, I feel like the best way for me to introduce you to Andy is if I just show you a picture.
Is it a dead
here's
guy?
The thing. Andy in this photo.
Oh, is it the doll?
No. Okay. In this photo, Andy's the guy on the left, the littler guy.
The littler guy. Andy the. For audio listeners, there's an older gentleman with a suit, like a full suit, and then he's next to a goose. He's next to a goose that's wearing Converse. Is that a live animal?
He's got some pair of Chuck Taylors. Yeah, that's a live goose. That's Andy the goose.
Oh, it's Duck Taylors, but go ahead.
Do geese have to be flying to poop?
No. What? No?
I think they do.
No, the sidewalk is covered in their poop.
Yeah, because they're flying by. One who's a beloved national hero.
And the other who's just a dumb old, regular old, boring, old, stupid little goose. What if that was the thing? That's weird as heck, dude. That's weird as heck.
Things I learned last night.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Andy
the Goose.
Andy the
No,
Goose.
you couldn't give away his last name. His last name is the Goose. Okay.
Well, yeah, you would know. You'd be like, we're talking about
Andy. Last name, the Goose. Not the Goose. Could have been.
Yeah. Well, actually, Wikipedia doesn't even put a the. It's just Andy Goose.
Which, honestly, you could have said.
Yeah, and you would have thought that was
I wouldn't have thought
a person's name.
Shoe-wearing goose.
Oh, you're talking about that goose.
Oh, you're wearing that
shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Andy's a goose. And here's the thing about Andy.
Right.
One,
how is this going to be an episode? There's no way there's enough content here for this to be a full episode.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I will, I guess. What?
So at the top of the story,
what
Andy,
size are his shoes?
0. That's serious. It's
what size are his geese feet?
Zeros. He wears zeros.
Okay.
So Andy is a goose owned by a guy named Gene Flemming. Gene, he's a wealthy guy from Nebraska.
Yeah, that makes sense. Rich people do weird stuff. Rich people, why have normal hobbies? You know, when you've got there's so much money, you don't know what to do with it, right? You just end up doing things like you pick up a goose on the side of the road and you go, "Where are your shoes?" Yeah. The show could give him shoes.
Yeah.
The show could give him shoes. Like, I'll give you shoes.
I'll give you shoes. So Andy, Gene was a wealthy guy from Hastings, Nebraska.
Okay.
And he earned his wealth because he was an inventor. He used to just invent things. Just invent things. I don't know. That's
shoes for geese.
Nobody has ever taken the time to report on what Gene got rich doing. Which is probably suspect.
Yeah. All
but
right.
He made money inventing something in the 60s or 70s.
Okay.
And then used that money to convert an old munitions factory in Hastings into a apartment complex. And is just rich.
Sure.
So he's like a local millionaire. Hastings is a small town, so that's even more important. Yeah. In the headlines, it's just local millionaire.
Gene
has duck or has goose with
if it goes missing, they put posters all over Hastings, Nebraska that says "loose goose." All right, loose and they're like, "Oh no,
oh no, there's a loose goose."
You'll know him by his shoes.
And and as most rich people do, you mentioned it. He had some strange hobbies, and so he was just kind of known for just always tinkering and doing weird things.
Yeah,
and so. One day, this is long after he retired, in the late 80s, he was at one of his sister's house, who she owned a farm, and she noticed that their goose just had a litter of geese. A litter of geese.
I don't think they're called litter.
Are you sure? A pack? Broke up in a pack.
What are a group of gosling's called?
Gosling.
No, that's the real word. You laugh because you're an idiot.
No, it's gooseling.
No.
It's not gosling.
Okay.
Baby geese group. What is a group of geese? Oh gosh. Hold on.
Oh gosh. Oh, hold on. Bro, I'm gonna be honest with you. We both need haircuts. Is the last haircut that both of us got from
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I was gonna go last week, but my barber was all booked up.
Yeah, I was saying mine too.
Frick. I waited too long to schedule my appointment, so now I need to.
One of my old barbers came to a comedy show this weekend.
Oh.
She showed up and she was like, "Yeah, I see you get your haircut with Dustin a lot."
Ooh,
And I was like, "Yeah,
awkward." You're like, you look great.
yeah." It's so weird. It's like running into an ex.
Yeah.
I drive 3 hours to see my barber.
Yeah, you do. It's weird.
I'm talking to give you time to look something up, and for some reason, I try to kill time,
Yeah.
and you always just stop.
I found
you
it.
found it. What is a litter of?
So when
Goslings
on
called.
the ground or in the water,
Hold on, no, stop. Okay.
they're called a gaggle.
Oh, a gaggle of
Gaggle of
goslings.
geese.
That makes
A
sense.
gaggle of
Yeah,
geese.
I've heard that.
In flight, they're called either a skein, a team, or a wedge,
Okay.
or a flock.
Flock is what I was assuming, but I'm talking about like their little children.
Oh my gosh, here's a whole bunch. A bunch of geese. That's one in the list.
Sure.
A chevron, a Christmas,
A chevron.
a cluster,
no, that's like
a
the chevron's
covert.
like when they're flying.
Yeah, when they're flying. A gagglin, a gagglinge. This is absurd.
Okay. So
A little knot.
so you're
A
saying
plump.
that Gene looked out the window and saw a gaggle.
He saw a gaggle
Right.
of geese. It was at his sister's house. His sister had like a farm, so it wasn't that. It was normal.
Yeah.
To just, I mean, it's normal pretty much anywhere you go to see some geese somewhere.
This is not a Canadian goose, by the way.
This
For
is-
anybody listening,
yeah,
this
this
is
is
not the kind that hurt you.
yeah.
This is
it's-
like a mother goose looking goose.
It is very Mother Goose. It is nursery rhyme goose. Yeah, 100% nursery. Nursery. Jeez.
Yeah, nursery
holy
rhymes
cow.
made me think that geese were friendly. And then I lived in an apartment complex and I learned the hard
they
way.
ain't. They ain't.
I used to have 10 fingers.
Well, he was he was out there.
Now I
and-
have 11. A goose bit my hand and I grew another finger.
grew two more.
And I grew, and my hand grew five times in size.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So his sister had a goose because she's a farmer.
Yeah.
And
They got
I don't
him.
know what they did, the eggs or something. I don't know. And so
You know how geese are born?
so they harvested some of the eggs too late and they were alive ones. And so
Oh.
there's a bunch of geese, a bunch of fresh geese.
Sure.
Well, one of them, Gene noticed, didn't have any feet. And so it was struggling to keep up with all the other geese. It was like
Yeah,
a
it didn't have
deformity.
feet.
Yeah.
Did it have legs?
Yeah, it had legs. It had little nubs.
Oh.
It was a poor little deformity.
Little pirate
And
goose?
Gene, in an interview, said, and you know, me being a Shriner, I wanted to help in any way I
Oh, this
could.
is Gene talking.
This is Gene.
Okay, I thought you were like, Gene said it, and you know me, a Shriner. And I was like, wait, what?
Since when were you a Shriner?
It's like Abu Dhabi, whatever
I come
they
in
say.
with the hat.
What is
The
their
little
saying?
fez.
I
don't know.
Abu, I don't know if we can say it. They'll hunt us down, dude. They're kind of scary.
Yeah, we can bleep it out. It's Es Salum Mu Alikum.
Yeah, they hate the
You
way
need
you
to
said
bleep
that,
that.
too.
I think it means with you be peace, which is supposed
Sure.
to be peace be with you. But
Sure.
they just got it backwards.
So he's a Shriner. So he said, you know me as a Shriner.
Yeah.
I saw this poor goose with no feet, and I thought something's got to be done.
yeah.
Good
$9
thing
million
I've got enough money.
can help that.
You know, when I see a goose with no feet, I go, man, if I had the resources, I sure would help. But alas, me and that goose are both poor.
Yep. And so, but luckily, a rich guy saw that goose, and
Yeah.
so he asked his sister. He
There
said,
was also an orphanage right next door to his sister's house, and he saw a bunch of children in need. He could have given them,
Yeah.
and they didn't have shoes.
They all had feet, though.
Yeah,
They all had their feet.
They were a group
Those
of
kids have
they had a
feet.
group. There was a group of orphans next door, and they all had women's shoes. Because they had some guy bought
Yeah.
them a pair of Christmas shoes,
Yeah.
and
gosh.
so now they're orphans.
Didn't you talk about Christmas shoes in the last episode?
I was trying to make a callback,
Oh,
and you
I
just
thought
you
you
were
were
just being.
I thought you were trying to
But
bring up
anyway,
that
he was
same
like,
joke.
"Why give my money there when I could help this little goose.
Yeah, so he asked his sister, he said, hey, can I take that goose home? And she was like,
I'm going to take that goose home. And while I'm on my way home, will you cut off the other one's feet? I would
when
love.
I come back, I'd like to see
I'd
no
like a
geese with
gaggle of
feet.
feetless geese.
So he takes the goose home and he's like, okay, I'm going to invent something to help this goose. And so he starts thinking through all the possibilities of things that he can do. What are you laughing at?
I'm going to invent something. Now, having seen a picture of this goose with shoes on, and he goes, I'm going to invent something, and then invents shoes. Is what's fun to me, but go ahead.
Well, he starts out actually trying to be creative. So he starts out, he says, okay, if I can make a like modified little skateboard, then on one foot, he's got the skateboard and it's like strapped to him. And the other foot, he can push himself and pedal with the other foot. So he's got like a little.
He can't fly with that. he's got to land like a. He's got to come in and land like a plane.
Yeah, he has to put one.
You got a flare at the end and just
landing gear.
Sorry, a flare is when you pull back a little bit. I don't know if you know. You only fly on Flight Simulator. I fly real planes, so I don't know.
So he starts working on. What do you want to say?
No.
What do you want to say? What do you want to say?
No.
What do you want to say? Okay,
maybe your wife will buy you a real plane next year.
Yeah, I could see if she'll take out a loan for me.
Wow.
So
I hate our friendship.
So the skateboard.
Yeah.
Makes the skateboard, straps it to his feet, but the goose was struggling skating. It was a hard thing to pick up when you're a goose.
It's hard for people to do it.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard thing to learn.
How crazy would it have been if the goose wasn't struggling though? Like if
It
the
was
goose
just
was just
real
doing
good.
freaking kick flips.
Just roll. Yeah. Take me down to the hive pipe, Gene. And so, that didn't work out great. And so he took it back to the drawing board and he started working out with some like variations of like peg leg type situations. But I mean, the goose had peg legs already. So eventually he landed and was like, wait, baby shoes. And so he went and picked up a pair of baby shoes and filled it with foam to kind of fill in the toes.
Oh, sure. Were these weren't permanently on this goose?
No, yeah, they're normal shoes, just like anyone else.
So he filled it with foam to shove his peg legs in.
Yeah, and he shoved his
Did he
peg
have to make
legs-
molds of them?
Kind of like he just filled it with foam so that way like they would grip his.
Did he? What, is this goose living in his house?
Yeah, it's his little house goose. Did you have a house goose?
Okay. We had a garage goose.
And so got his little peg legs in the feet, in the shoes, and started teaching him to walk, and it worked. And the goose was like ecstatic because now it could run around and move and be a normal, a real
goose,
boy.
I was just going to say, the goose was like, I'm a real boy.
So this goose and Gene
Trying to sign him up for school. Do you think the town is small enough, or if he's rich enough, that if he could sign up for the school, and he's like, hey, if you let my child into the school, I will build a new gymnasium. And the school's like, this is great. All right. And then he signs and does all the paperwork and sends this goose to school.
What's his name?
And
Andy?
they're like, oh, yeah. They're like, well, we got a new gym out of it, And he's just a goose in the elementary school. Just freaking. What if the goose was smarter than the kids, though? That would have been the whole thing, too.
Yeah.
Coloring.
Could have been. But Andy and Gene became like best friends. Andy seemed to have a real attachment to Gene.
What year is this?
This was in 89, I believe. Andy had like this attachment to Gene because I think Andy understood that the only reason he could walk is because Gene gave him shoes.
Yeah.
And his favorite pair of shoes that Andy had were a pair of Nikes, and he sported those around town all the time. And Gene modified his.
You think Andy was like, I have this favorite pair of shoes? I mean, you can tell, I guess.
Yeah, because every morning he would I don't know what he did in the morning, slither across the floor. He didn't have his shoes yet, so he'd slither over to his shoes and then slide his feet in the Nikes.
Could he put them on himself?
Well, he could put his feet in there, but he couldn't tie them, and so he's just sitting there honking.
He could put the shoes on himself.
trying to get Gene to come put on his shoes. He's just in there.
Okay. Yeah. Every morning I wake up at 4:30 a.m. to my goose honking.
Because he needs his shoes put on.
Yeah. Oh.
No shoes in the house, Andy.
So I got to put my Goose's shoes on. Hey, thanks for being here for this episode of Things I Learned Last Night. If you like this and you want to check out other episodes, please go through our back catalog. There's literally like 100 and something episodes that you can go check out. One of my favorites is Stanley Meyer, a guy who allegedly invented a water-powered vehicle and then took that invention everywhere and then mysteriously died. So we go through the whole theories of what could have happened to him or like why his idea was plausible, not plausible. Really great episode. But other than that, thank you so much for being here and checking out this one.
And so Gene modifies his truck to make this like Goose safe seat in his passenger seat. And just starts driving him around town and introducing him to all the townsfolk. He's like, here's Andy.
I've heard this story before.
No, you haven't.
Yeah, the goose ends up attacking his neighbor and the police had to shoot him.
Wow, that's an old one. Oh my gosh. Wow.
That's a Travis the chimpanzee
Travis
reference.
the chimpanzee. No, yeah, this is Andy the Goose. Or Andy Goose. No, but Andy became kind of famous in the town. Everybody in the town knew Andy.
Of course, yeah. Dude, there's one goose that wears shoes. Everyone's talking about it.
All the local kids started trying to put shoes on other geese to see if people would notice it was a different one. They couldn't because geese fly. Kids can't.
Could Andy fly?
I don't know. I've never seen a report of him flying. I would assume so. His wings are fine. It's just his feet. I don't know if the shoes made him less aerodynamic or something. I don't know.
Well, I would assume it weighed him down.
Maybe. I have not seen anything about.
Yeah, I'm sure it did because geese don't fly with their feet
they put their
down.
legs up. But I mean, if he's wearing shoes that are small enough and can tuck them back and like.
Imagine that though. You're just cloud watching. Here comes a chevron. You know, you're looking up and you're like,
front of the chevron.
Wow. Do you think he bought those shoes? Or were they a gift for a speaking engagement? You know? I can't believe. Yeah.
I mean, I'm also just picturing like flock of geese flies overhead. You feel something hit you on the back. And you're just like, oh no. And little shoe behind you.
It's just a shoe.
Oh, how?
And you look up, you see one shoe.
You don't have the context that came from a goose, though.
Yeah,
so
you
a
just
baby
see a
foot
baby
just
size
hit you out of nowhere. Right?
I just can't buy a baby foot.
Are there babies in the cloud? Is this
There's babies in the clouds.
Yeah.
No, Andy. Ironic. It's ironic you said that though, because Gene and Andy started going on a speaking circuit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And what they were doing is
He would go to schools. That makes sense. Like literally, that's like something weird that people would book for a middle school.
Oh, absolutely.
Speech.
He went to schools.
Hey, if my goose can wear shoes, you can do anything you want.
You can pass your math test.
Yes. And if you can't pass your math test, my goose passed your math test. He graduated. I put him through school. We're in a gym that I paid for.
And the goose is just over there, just like.
Yeah, there's no real kids either. It's just this guy is so rich that they're just doing stuff. He rents out the gymnasium.
He rents out convention centers.
Paid actors
and he's the
to come
only
in.
person in there.
Yeah.
No, they're going to schools and then conferences for disabilities. And
okay.
To me, I agree. I made that face too.
I would be like, well, if I had a disability and this guy showed up and was like, I cured this goose. And you're like, with kids' shoes?
Yeah, it's pretty touchy.
What
I don't know
kind of
why.
conferences are we talking?
I don't know. I don't know. It just says he would
What
go to
disabilities?
events. He would go to events geared towards people with disabilities. He would donate a ton of money
Sure.
and then come out with his goose and be like, "Look, my goose had a disability.
My goose
And he
overcame adversity."
Like, I don't know. It's
That feels
kind of
weird.
offensive.
That feels really wrong, to be honest. Yeah.
kinda. So needless to say, though, the goose became famous, and somehow the media got word of it, and newspapers started calling. They started doing articles. He ended up on Johnny Carson showing off his goose feet.
Yeah.
And then they got the Spread in People magazine, which is what that photo is from. This is People magazine's photo shoot of him, which looks like a school photo shoot. Like this is a mall photo shoot.
This is a church directory picture. That's what that looks like to me, dude. That looks like First Baptist Church making a directory.
Imagine,
And this guy, there's no wedding ring. It's just this man and his goose, all right? Which that in itself is sad, okay?
Imagine going to a new church and like part of their like welcome packet is the directory. And you're flipping through the directory and you see church board. And it's this photo.
You think you'd make it to the directory before you saw this guy front row? You know what I'm talking about?
goose?
Like at church? Well, it's got shoes on. Of course, they can go to church.
Yeah, I guess if he's got shoes, he's welcome. I mean,
yeah. So this is in People magazine.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, and here's another one you made me think.
I mean, the goose looks stuffed. It's got great posture.
Here's another one of them together in his backyard one day.
Yeah, you can see it's got shoes on. Yeah.
Gene and him were just good friends. So they go on this speaking
This
tour.
does maybe want weird pets, you know?
Yeah.
There's a guy on TikTok who's got pet coyotes.
Oof.
They don't got shoes though.
That guy's gonna die.
Yeah, 100%, dude.
I mean, it's ironic you said that because Gene was killed by the goose. No, he wasn't. That's a joke.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I was sad and excited to find out how.
No, Gene, the goose, Andy, because he was on the speaking circuit, touring the country, doing all these events, Nike noticed. And Nike was like, hey, want a sponsorship?
Oh, I thought Nike was like, hey, we want to buy that goose.
Can we have your goose?
Can we buy your goose, please? Thank you.
No, they...
So Nike sponsored it?
They sent a ton of baby-sized shoes.
They did the photo shoot with the goose in the Jordan pose, you know?
Yeah, they should have had Air Andes. Those would have been dope. I would buy so many Air Andes.
Air Andes. Well, that's, I mean, stinking.
Sells itself. Yeah, so he got a sponsorship, and basically from then on, he only wore Nikes. Was the Nike wearing goose.
I've got some shoes that I want your goose to wear. Sorry. We have a contract with Nike. Imagine this, though. Here's what I know where the story goes. Eventually, the goose has to die, you know? He has to. And so, but if I own this goose and it's now making me a ton of money from Nike and speaking engagements, and then that goose dies, you got to get another goose and just either pretend... or you got to taxidermy this thing and take it around. That's the only two options is what I'm saying.
I mean, I guess.
Or you got to go out with it. You're like, my goose is gone.
My goose is gone.
And then you just lay down.
So it looks like I've gone to bury me with the goose. Gene, you're still alive. Bury me with the goose.
Bury me alive. Put all the shoes in here.
Bury me in all of Andy's shoes. I want a grave.
I want to be in that goose grave.
I want a Nike grave. So Gene and Andy, they're doing their tour thing.
Yeah.
He's sponsored by Nike. It's a big deal. But it wasn't
How
all...
long do geese live?
I don't know. Let me look this up. Average goose lifespan. 10 to 24 years.
10 to 24?
Yeah.
It's pretty big
like a
gap.
dog.
Yeah.
It's like a dog. But yeah, so they're doing their thing, but it wasn't all beauty. In the inside, the VH1 special about this.
What do you mean? What do you mean it wasn't all beauty? You think, what, did the goose have a secret drug addiction? Right. It's like freaking getting blackout drunk every night. What are you talking about? What's all beauty? Gene's like, please, Andy, get it together, man. And the goose is over there, cigarette hanging out its beak. Just like, that's how it honks now. It sounds raspy, you know?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? It's not all beauty.
Well, Gene's granddaughter, Jessica, she
was jealous of the goose. She's like, this thing gets more love than I do.
She lived with Gene at the time.
Oh.
And when Gene brought the goose home, she was in middle school, and she said that the particular day that she met Andy was a tough day because...
I don't like the way that she met Andy.
Well, that's what happened.
I was in my room. It's middle school. And
I was listening
crawled
to Be
into
My
my
Escape
room.
by Reliant K.
Crawled into my room, looked me dead in the eye, and said, this is my house now. And I was like, what? And he got on top of me, beak in my face, and said, this is my house now. and then crawled out because he didn't have shoes.
He didn't
yet.
have his shoes yet.
And I was like, that was weird. And I tried to tell him,
There's
Dad,
feathers all over my
Grandpa,
room.
who was this? Granddaughter?
Yeah, granddaughter. Yeah,
Grandpa,
grandpa.
this duck talks. And he's like, shut up. The duck doesn't have feet. Right? Or
The
whatever.
duck doesn't have feet or teeth. It can't talk.
But she's been talking to this goose for her whole life. What do you mean? What happened?
So Jessica, she's in middle school. She had a bad day at middle school.
Okay.
Came home and saw her grandpa walking around in the
So she's just projected
driveway.
that bad day onto this goose.
Yeah, in the driveway with a leash. And he's like, what's he got? What's going on? And goes out there to find this goose that he's trying to teach to walk.
Okay.
And she's like, this is ridiculous. She didn't think much of it, but she was annoyed about the goose.
Sure.
And then quickly having the goose at home got annoying because it was loud, it honked.
Yeah, it's a goose.
And then, it's a goose. You can't like house train a goose. And so,
You can't? You didn't use a litter box?
it's like a bell at the back door that it rings when it's like time to fly outside. No, it would just fly across the living room
And just,
yeah. Can geese? Serious question.
okay.
Do geese have to be flying to poop?
No. What? No?
I think they do.
No, the sidewalk is covered in their poop.
Yeah, because they're flying by.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so
Are you
Jessica,
suggesting that the geese have to fly? Like he's just sitting there. He's like, "Whoops, gotta go."
That is what I'm suggesting. So he's just every time you see him flying around the house, it's like, oh, open the window.
No, they kept the windows open all the time.
Oh yeah, so he can fly. Yeah, there you go. It's like a doggy door.
Yes.
But yeah, so Jessica was not a fan of the goose
Sure.
ever. And then of course, when it became like traveling and speaking engagements and like became a big deal, it's like all anybody ever talked about. And so she was the goose girl. It was like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
your
which is
sibling is a
weirder than the
goose.
horse girl. All right,
Yeah.
because every school had that where she opens her locker and there's like horses all over
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
magazine clothes. But then you got a goose girl who smells like goose poop.
Yeah, and also is her sibling is a
It doesn't
famous
have her
goose.
own shoes. He was so focused on buying shoes for the goose that he forgot to provide shoes for her, so she's barefoot. The irony of it, right?
She's wearing hand-me-downs from the goose. They're just like super tight.
Yeah. She's not allowed to wear Nikes. She gets all the other shoes.
I saw Andy get these really sweet shoes the other day. I want them so bad. I can't wait till he grows out of them.
She's getting hand-me-downs.
Yeah, so they had a bad relationship, Andy and
Jessica.
And so her and the goose fought a lot. And she was frustrated that they had this goose in their house, and her grandpa was famous because of it. All it is middle school stuff, right?
Sure.
Well, on October 19th, 1991,
Did she kill that goose?
Andy went missing. And 2 days later, Gene gets a phone call that a goose was found in the city park with shoes, along with another goose, and they were both deceased. And they went to ID Andy, and it was a positive ID. Somebody had killed Andy, and nobody knew who it was.
What?
So this turned into
A murder
a
investigation.
murder mystery because the beloved footless goose was killed, along with another innocent goose. That's the part that
Wrong place, wrong time.
wrong place, wrong time. Andy went out to hang out with this other goose. Probably go get some cigarettes or something.
Yeah.
We know.
Yeah, you know what kind of life he was living. You know?
I think the other goose actually was named. It was someone else's goose. I think it was Priscilla. I think was his name.
It was a
Her
female
name.
goose?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. He was on a date.
He was on a date. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, Priscilla and Andy were found.
Jessica just couldn't handle it. Jessica was jealous of the date.
He's out with some other goose.
What if that was the dynamic? That's weird as heck, dude. That's weird as heck. What?
No.
I'm the only goose. What if that was her? That's weird. I don't like that angle. Let's do a different one. I don't like that.
We'll just go with Andy was the other goose. In this
Andy was the
situation.
other goose.
There we go.
Is it clear that someone killed these geese?
Oh yeah, it's very obvious that it was a.
How? What was the murder weapon?
This wasn't like a these were. Here's a good. They were skinned.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was like a
knife.
Yeah. It was a human had to kill it. It wasn't this
like
got
an
attacked by an animal or something like that. It was
yeah.
skinned. So it was
Oh
human.
no.
So it was a violent scene and just left literally just left out in the city park in Hastings. It was found by a couple high school kids that were just hanging out in the park.
Yeah.
And so a major investigation was launched.
Yeah, for sure.
Gene obviously leading the charge on it.
And Nike.
Yeah, Nike's like,
Well,
we will
for real
find
though, you got to go against Nike's lawyers now because there's a contract that has now.
I mean, I guess. I don't know how big this sponsorship really was. It sounds
Listen,
like
if
it
I'm
sounded
Nike-
like Nike was just like, here's a box of shoes.
No, I would go all out on it. If I was Nike, all press is good press to me. I would kill a goose. If I was Nike, I'd kill that goose for the press coverage.
Yeah, that's fair. Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. If you're enjoying it, make sure you subscribe. And while you're at it, leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening, leave a review. That stuff really helps a lot. It really boosts us in the algorithms and makes sure a lot more people get to see what we're doing. And so we appreciate that a ton. Leave that comment, leave that review, and we'll see you in the next episode. So needless to say, this was bigger news than just the fact that he had the goose to begin with. This made national headlines.
Yeah, because this is like intentional. This is like weird. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, that
to some
famous
sweet old man.
It's like, oh, remember a couple of years ago that famous goose that we saw everywhere, and Nike gave him a bunch of stuff. Somebody
Tonight in
murdered it.
Hastings, Nebraska.
Yeah,
And then you got to put that music behind it. We're a true crime podcast now. In Hastings, Nebraska, on October 19th, two geese, a gaggle, walking together in the park. Murdered. And we got like some. Could you true crime podcast this, please? That's bad.
tonight.
Next time.
So Gene launches this investigation to try to figure out who did this, and so does the city. The city's trying to figure this out. The police are trying to figure this out, and it gets all the way to one of the highest
To the
offices.
president. It's all the way.
Who was the president this time?
Is it Clinton? Is he in already?
91. I don't think he was there yet. Was he? No,
he's
this was
92.
just before him.
So this is
first Bush.
This is Daddy W.
Daddy
Dubs.
Yeah. He didn't care about this.
Yeah.
It hit his office and he was like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
He was like, send that back to, it went all the way to the office of the Hastings Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, okay.
Which they put together a
Task force.
reward fund.
Oh.
They raised $10,000 for someone who could, which today is equivalent to almost $20,000.
Yeah.
To find the perpetrator of this crime. And they were taking it very seriously. The police were taking it very seriously. They were interviewed by People magazine. People did a follow-up on this. And the police said, yeah, we're engaging with every tip that comes in. We're following all the leads, trying to figure out what happened. But so far, nothing. And so 2 years on, they're doing all this research. Gene is keeping a diary of everything that he's studying. They have photos from the crime scene. They have all these leads that Gene has followed. And then, sadly, Gene passes away.
Oh.
And so,
So the investigation kind of fizzles, or what?
yeah, he had been, for a long time, making this push to figure out who did this.
Yeah.
Because obviously he's the one who's really connected to this goose.
Yeah.
And so when
He's his
he
closest surviving relative.
kinda. So when Gene passes away, there wasn't really anyone to carry that mantle. So the rest of the city just kind of eventually fizzled out.
Sure.
And the Chamber of Commerce, they took that reward and they used it to build a park.
In memory of the goose?
No, just above the park.
Oh, man.
Which was really sad because Gene was trying really hard to get a memorial, a bronze statue of him built in the park, in like the city park where he died. But that never happened, which is kind of sad. Instead, they buried him, Andy, in the cemetery, and they gave him this big memorial.
Andy the Footless Goose.
Which I'm not gonna lie, if I saw this in the cemetery, I would think this was someone's friend, and they were just like, "Yeah, put a goose on it.
Put a goose with shoes.
With shoes.
Yeah."
Put a shoe goose on there. Here's the thing. The case is technically still open, but it was almost shut. You know, it's a cold case.
Mm-hmm.
But Jessica, she is now an adult. It's been years. And in 2016, she picked it up again.
No, I thought you were going to say she admitted to it.
No, she picked it up again and she said, I want to investigate this and figure out
she's so
what
full.
happened.
She's suspect number one.
Because she, for some reason, it just bothered her the rest of her life. 16 years later, her Jean...
She's like, yeah, I hated the goose. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We fought a lot.
Yeah.
You know? We borrowed each other's clothes. But like all good siblings do. You know?
He was my brother. Get out of here.
But at the end of the day, somebody took the end of he could have lived another 10 to 24 years. Someone robbed us of that.
Yeah, so she took all of her grandpa's old diaries and the photos, and she reopened the investigation herself. And she started documenting it, hoping to put together a documentary film about the process of solving the case. And after a few years of digging through all of this, she ends up finding that when the Chamber of Commerce contacted the police after Jean's death, they said, hey, where are we at with this investigation? Because we have this $10,000 reward.
Sure.
What should we do with it? And the police said, yeah, well, we solved this crime like right after it happened. But because it's so high profile,
what?
We're not going to press any charges and we're not going to release who did it.
So it's a cover.
And they said, yeah, here's the thing that they said that Jessica's caught on, and a lot of people are caught on. They said the person who did it is not responsible. And so
what?
The leading theory is that whoever killed the goose,
Two geese.
the geese, either did it by accident, which doesn't seem likely because they were skinned.
Yeah.
It was very intentional.
Sure.
Or is not in a mental state to understand what they were doing. And because it was such a high profile event, and they don't think that the person like had the capacity to understand, they just swept it under the rug and didn't want anyone to know about it. But they still, even after that was uncovered and Jessica's tried to follow it, the police won't release who it is. And they might not even know, they might not have documented it. And so, Jessica's still trying to get to the bottom of it. She's still trying to make a documentary about it to figure out what happened.
We could help her.
Because she's like, I don't really want to find out who did this. It's not a matter of who did it and like I want to get justice or something like that. She's like, I just want to know why.
Yeah.
Like, why would you just take these two geese, one who's a beloved national hero,
and the other who's just a dumb old, regular old, boring, old, stupid little goose? What do you mean? Like, why? Why would you take these two geese? One who's a national hero, beloved family member, and the other was just a boring old duck.
It's
a fancy duck.
Yeah, just not as cool duck.
Next level duck.
Just a duck that's a little important. Just a duck
Stupid.
that you give bread to sometimes on the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So she's trying to solve it. What's exciting and what I really hope I've noticed is she is still actively pursuing this. because I've seen her in the comments of every YouTube video
wow.
about this story.
Oh, no.
So I'm really hoping to see her in the comments of our video.
Sorry we insinuated that you might have had romantic feelings for this Goose. Wow.
So hi, Jessica, if you're watching.
Jessica, we would love to produce a show for you. Like, let's turn this into a true crime podcast.
Yeah, we want to.
Next week
be
on
involved.
Tying Up Goose Ends.
Goose Ends the podcast. I like
Goose
that.
Ends. Yeah,
Goose Ends.
that's a good one. Yeah.
That's great. So this is Hastings' claim to fame. Well, there was one other thing. Kool-Aid. Have you heard of that?
Next week. Oh, this is it. This is it. Next week on Duck and Cover.
Duck and Cover. There you go. That's
Duck
pretty
and
good.
Cover?
That's
What am I, a branding genius?
Yeah.
Jessica, I know you're out there. I know you're watching. First of all, it's very weird. You're watching. Like, I'm really sorry.
Her brother was killed.
I'm sorry for what happened. Go ahead. It's been 30 years.
Hey, she needs to know why.
All
That's
right.
haunting, man.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But yeah, so the only other thing that Hastings has a claim to fame for is Kool-Aid. They invented it. That's what Gene invented.
Why?
That's not what he invented.
Why is this what
That's
you're
not
bringing
he
up at the
invented.
end?
But no, yeah,
What?
they did invent. Here's the
Are you
building.
serious?
Here's the building that they invented Kool-Aid at. In which the reason.
Wait, this is real?
This
What are
is
you
the
doing
reason-
right now? That was such a hard pivot.
This is the
Okay.
reason why the Kool-Aid man busts through the walls in every ad.
Yes, because this building
is
doesn't have
just
it has
walls.
one door and one singular window. And there's a weird small sign that says birthplace of Kool-Aid. Oh yeah.
No, yeah. So this is all anybody ever talked about Hastings for until the Goose.
Until the Goose.
Until the Goose. So the Goose stole Kool-Aid's claim to fame.
Wow. I think we have a new suspect.
Kool-Aid man
I'll
is
never watch those commercials the same way again. You know he murdered a goose, all right? And I'm going to tell people that casually. If someone brings up the Kool-Aid man, just casually drop. Just go like, bring up the Kool-Aid man. Like we're in a normal conversation. Yeah, try to bring it up normally.
Sounds good. All right, man.
All right, great.
Hold on. You ready? You ready?
All right, yeah.
Man, this Kool-Aid's pretty good.
Yeah, you know that guy killed a goose?
Like the guy who made Kool-Aid?
No, like the Kool-Aid man.
Oh, like the cartoon?
I don't think he knew what he was doing, though.
He wasn't responsible.
He didn't mean to.
He was just busted out of the
That's
walls.
also, the police were like, we can't go public with this. We caught him doing it. Like we saw. The police are traumatized, dude. Imagine you roll up in the park. You got your little, it's nighttime. You got your little police spotlight thing. And you just like freaking, you hear a rustling. Spotlight. Kool-Aid man is skinning 2 geese. Right? And he just goes, oh yeah. And you're like, what? You know, you can't go public with that.
I just picture the press conference where he steps up. He's like, "Thank you, Mayor. People of Hastings, at approximately 9 p.m. on October 30th, 1991,
Through the wall.
the Kool-Aid man killed Andy Goose, skinned him alive, left his shoes, and skinned Priscilla Goose. Also innocent bystander.
A goose, but less important.
If you don't know her,
A less
it
important
makes sense.
goose.
It's understandable. We didn't know her either.
Yeah.
Luckily, she was wearing dog tags, goose tags. So we were able to ID her from her ID. But
They really do hide in plain sight, serial killers. You know, the Kool-Aid man's a serial killer. How many geese you gotta kill to be a serial killer? 2 in my book.
yeah, it looks like, you're.
Who knows
exactly
the
right.
countless unnamed geese he's killed?
Yeah, there's, it's ironic. Throughout the 90s, a lot of geese died in Hastings.
I'll tell you what, that's not very cool.
Think of that next time you're drinking a cherry Kool-Aid.
Oh no. I'm so sorry, Jessica. I'm really sorry that you've endured this.
Anyways, honestly, kind of the sweetest story up until the murder part. Well, I realized that after I said it.
It's a really good story.
It's really sweet to see Gene
Wow.
and this Goose just connect.
But
Like
you know
they
they're
did,
together
and-
now.
Yeah. Yeah. Gene opted
Well, I
for
don't know.
Goose
The
heaven.
Goose had a weird life. The Goose was living. They may not be together.
Gene shows up at the pearly
Gene
gates.
obviously goes to heaven.
and-
He gave him Goose feet. You know?
He shows up at the pearly gates.
And he was a
and
Shriner.
He was a shrine.
You know? So we don't know what kind of life the Goose was living.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. We know he. Yeah, that's fair.
All geese go to heaven.
Except Andy. So, anyways, that's the story of Andy Goose. It's an
you think he's got
it's a
feet
cult
in heaven?
case. Well, I mean, there'll never be any more pain, or it doesn't say anything about feet though.
All right. Well,
There's only one set of footprints in the sand.
and that's where Gene carried that goose. I hate this.
Here's the craziest thing about the whole scenario.
The one set of footprints in the sand is where Andy had to poop, so he had to fly.
He had to take off.
Oh, that's where Andy pooped.
No, okay. So the crazy thing, Gene was an inventor.
Yeah.
And so he was always tinkering and working on new projects and things, my project. And so Gene, because Andy was like, you know what? It's cool to be a goose with feet.
But I want
with
to have
shoes.
hands.
Yeah, the goose said, but I want talents. I
Yeah.
want skills. I want
Yeah,
abilities.
that makes sense.
And so he modified his shoes one day.
So that they could decide which one was the favorite. That was really what it came down to was who's the favorite of the family? Is it Andy or Jessica? And in order to decide, we're going to have a fiddle off. Hey, you made it to the end of the episode. You're probably asleep right now because you let it keep playing. But if you aren't asleep, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you get more videos. And also, if you can't wait for more, we've got plenty of other episodes and highlight clips, just some of our funniest parts, the things we enjoy the most. This show is an absolute blast, and I cannot thank you enough for being here.